Hey everyone, welcome to Wildlife Inspired. I'm your host, Scott Keys. In today's video, the last video that I'm going to do on photography etiquette, and this one involves social media. So stay tuned and we'll get to it right after this. I've been doing a series of videos on photography etiquette. Now for me, it's mostly around wildlife photography, but most of these rules will apply to anybody. And in today's video, we're going to talk about social media, because over the years, I've just seen a lot of things that didn't feel right. I'm wondering a little bit about your opinion on these. Do you see these, and do they bother you a little bit when you see them? Have you been a victim of any of these etiquette violations on social media? I'm going to do this in a list format. I will just say in the other video I did do's and don'ts. My do for this video is simple. It's just based around respect. Be respectful on social media. I'll give you some don'ts, and these are going to help you with that concept of respect. I've got 4 don'ts for social media. You let me know if you agree with these 4. Let's get to it. Now, number 4 and number 3 are a little bit related, but it's basically when somebody posts an image, don't interject yourself. Meaning, sometimes people post a pretty image, they just want to hear that it's beautiful. They don't need to know your personal experience with that image, especially when that's all it's about. So for example, somebody posts an image of my case of a bird, and you just say, oh, they're in my backyard. Oh, I did this. Oh, I photographed that one time, without ever acknowledging the original post. So while certainly we all want to share our experiences, don't forget to acknowledge the original post. Say a few nice words before you throw in your own experiences, or better yet, just avoid them altogether, because the person wasn't posting necessarily for your feedback on your experiences. Maybe they just wanted to hear a few kind words or just share a pretty image. So just remember that when people share out, it's not always the opportunity for you to share in. Very closely related to that is the comparison. And this is kind of interjection again, but in this situation, what a lot of people will do is say, oh, I've got a picture just like that. Have you experienced this? I can remember, where I've posted an image and down in the comments, I would read somebody say something like, oh, I took a picture that looks just like that. Here's what's sometimes concerning, sometimes even funny, is when the image that they're comparing to your image might be vastly different. So maybe it's the same subject, but in their eyes, they're seeing it as the same quality, yet your picture was taken with a high-end DSLR or mirrorless camera and an expensive lens, and you put in a lot of time and energy, and the picture they're sharing was from their bird feeder on a cell phone. Have you experienced that? I kind of find it a little humorous. At the same time, it's not appropriate for you to constantly compare your work to somebody else's. I think just in general in social media, we often have a need to interject and force ourselves into somebody else's post, somebody else's world. So just be a little bit cautious when doing that. And if you've experienced it, let me know down in the comments. Number 3 is a big one for me. In fact, when I was making this list up, I tried to think of specific examples, and I remember one from years ago. And the rule is, or the don't is, don't critique others unless asked. Now, this is kind of a big one for me. Let me give you my example. I'll post the image because I remember the image. It took me a while to remember the situation, but I remember the image, and I may not remember all the details, but I'll try to give you the basics of my story. I posted the image and I captioned it probably something around the composition, because to this day, I like this composition. This was taken, maybe I'd been doing photography around 6 years at the time, 5 or 6 years. And I was highlighting the composition of this photo. Did not ask for criticism. And somebody down in the comments, I just specifically remember, like, what are they commenting for? And they're saying, what I read is, it's not that good. I don't know what you like about it. And I just remember specifically, there's no feather details. And to myself, I was really confused because the image wasn't about, anything about details. I didn't make any technical claims. It was really just about the shape that I enjoyed. This curve being a very appealing shape in nature. So I was it just bothered me, and I couldn't understand why somebody would take the time to do that. Now, a couple things about this non-solicited critical feedback. One is try to avoid it. I do think that the vast majority of people will agree with me. It is not appropriate to just criticize somebody's images unless they ask for them. I'm not talking about somebody that's blatantly trying to pass something off as fake, because I've seen people do like composite skies and pass it off as fake. And down in the comments, somebody might say like, hey, is that a composite, or you shouldn't be doing that? I'm not really what I'm talking about. I'm talking about just criticizing the image that somebody posted. Now, we post often to share our experiences, sometimes for validation, so for positive feedback. I don't know many people that post so they can get ripped or criticized in public. So it just doesn't feel socially appropriate. It seems like it's poor etiquette to criticize somebody else's work when they haven't asked for it. Well, often what I find, and I did a video on the Dunning-Kruger effect, and what I typically find is that people that are very critical, a couple things, often very anonymous, often have a very high opinion of themselves, so think they are much better than they are. And so I've experienced that where that seems to be the mindset. I want to use the term like hater. It's a little bit of a hater mindset where I'm just going to criticize somebody publicly. What was interesting about this, by the way, and I don't think the photographer will ever see this, and I'm certainly not going to put out a name if I remember it, but they were actually a pretty good photographer. And I just couldn't understand why somebody who was actually pretty good at their craft would criticize somebody else and say that they didn't like it publicly without being asked. I couldn't understand that. I have tried in my career, even when I don't like images, even if somebody espouses how great they think it is, I just try to avoid it. I think socially it's just the right thing to do. You don't have to put a comment down. There's no obligation that we have for that. So think about that. And I do want to know down in the comments, have you experienced that? And do you think socially it should be a social norm not to criticize unless asked for? I'm going to put it as one of my don'ts because I do feel pretty strongly about that one. Don't criticize an image unless it's specifically asked for. And the last thing I want to put out there, and this is part of my don't list, don't ask for locations. Now, this carries over for a couple things. I've done videos about locations, so I have some feelings about, not sharing locations in general, when it's appropriate, when it's not appropriate, the safety of the wildlife, the protection of the environment, the exploitation of areas. I think there's a lot to be said about locations. More specifically, the comment I'm talking about looks something like this. You post a rare animal, or a rare bird in my case, and somebody says something like, hey, where was that taken? Without even acknowledging the animal, the image, or the post. It doesn't feel, it kind of feels in poor form to just ask people where they got that and not recognize the image itself. So while I don't like the idea of asking about locations at all, I especially don't like the idea of asking without even acknowledging the picture. What do you think about that one? Is it just me, or do you feel that one as well? So a short video today, just a couple guidelines over here. More curious if you agree with them, and what did I miss? I had to have missed some social media etiquette on here. So you let me know down in the comments which one I missed. I hope you enjoyed this video and this series on etiquette, part of my Quick Thoughts videos. For this one, you can check out the playlist. You'll see a whole group of Quick Thoughts videos that I have. And again, these are just opinion pieces, my experiences, some of my sharing. But most importantly, with all my Quick Thoughts videos, I really like to see what the audience thinks as well. So let me know down in the comments. If you're not subscribed to the channel, it's a great time to hit the subscribe button. And there's also a bell down there. That'll let you know when I have a new video out. So I'd love for you to hit that bell notification. And as always, I hope we can continue to find inspiration in wildlife together.